Amazon, that 43,000 for us. That we
Hi there, it's 4:30 PM on Tuesday, January 19th. We'll call the meeting of the New Ulm City Council to order. Item number 1, public meeting notice. All councilors are present. We can move on to number 2, consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.1, report from the Safety Commission for pedestrian crossing enhancements.
Right. Thank you, Madam President, City Councilors. Before you tonight is an item that was brought to our attention from the Safe Routes to School Committee. That was discussed at the Safety Commission meeting at the January 7th, 2021 meeting. As I stated, the Safe Routes to School Committee brought this item to the Safety Commission that was identified within the Safe Routes to School plan of safe crossings along Broadway, particularly between Center Street and 10th South, as that's a 10-block stretch with no control and without a marked crosswalk or anything of that nature. So after discussion amongst the Safe Routes to School team, it was decided that 4 South Street would be a spot that they would like to see crossing improvements. And at this time, the recommendation is for crosswalk paint, a painted crosswalk, and some signage, crosswalk signage at that location. The ultimate goal that was discussed at the Safety Commission meeting and also the Safe Routes to School team is a hawk system at that location. A hawk system, it kind of mirrors a traffic signal, but it's for pedestrians. It's pedestrian activated and would stop traffic along Broadway. Those systems run from anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000. The issue or the option before you today is much less than that, right around at $9,300. Obviously, Broadway is a state highway 15 and 68 at that location, so anything we do would need the approval of the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I worked with the traffic engineer at District 7 on this idea, and we bounced some ideas back and forth to come with the proposal that's before you today. This does have MnDOT's approval for the painting of one enhanced crosswalk with the ladder striping or the zebra striping, and with stop bars for the north and southbound traffic. It would have advanced warning signage and stop here for pedestrian signage included as well. The Safety Commission, after review of this item, was overwhelmingly in support of this install and recommended that the City Council consider this, and they recommended approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
One question for the city engineer. I know it says on our report here, city install and maintain. Is that our staff, like the street department, actually installing our?
Yeah, well, it'd be our cost to bear for the install and maintenance, whether it's
Contracted out?
contracted out or city staff, yep.
So the 9,600, Joe, that's going to cover the cost of all the different signs and the crosswalk.
And the painting. The crosswalk paint that I'm proposing is ground in epoxy instead of regular latex.
Yeah, I know it's very expensive paint.
Yep, the striping that the street department does is latex paint. We don't have the equipment to do the epoxy paint. The epoxy paint's a 2-part paint. You need specialized equipment to do that install, and also with the ground in markings, it provides a longer service life, so that adds significant cost as opposed to regular paint. The ground in markings we have at the roundabout at Oak and Highland, and then that's also what the state puts in on the state highway as well. You can see they're ground in ever so slightly into the pavement. The idea behind that is that traffic, skims over the marking instead of wearing on it, especially with the turning traffic and things like that.
No rumble strips or none?
No. So at any of the traffic signals where there's markings, that's all ground in, so.
Yeah, and I'm very much supportive, and I'll be voting in favor of this. And we've been talking about it for several years now, because we talked about the high dollar thing originally. My concern is there's a lot of out-of-town traffic on this street, and it goes pretty fast. And all of a sudden, we're putting something new on this street. Other than what are we gonna do to let everybody know that this is a new crossing?
Other than putting up the signs, there's, not much I mean,
Okay, I didn't know if you had another plan or,
no, I don't. But like I said, the state traffic engineer is also in support of
I mean,
the
can't we
layout
get
that's
some
proposed.
temporary blinking lights or something just to let people know that we're doing something different on that street? I know it's not our road.
Yeah, I can't commit to that without talking to the state first, because that's not really an approved install as part of the Uniform Traffic Control Manual. So anything that we'd put on, the state would have to grant us.
And my last
approval
question,
on.
is this the end of this project? Or are you gonna look at this in a couple of years for maybe a future advancement to do something a little more? Or maybe to add another one 4 blocks down the road, or?
I think the end goal is to hope to secure some sort of funding to do the Hawk system, to
Okay.
take the place of this one at 4 South. That's something we can revisit, adding an intermediate crossing, but I think adding at least one somewhat in the middle of that 10-block stretch would be beneficial. But,
Great, thank you.
yep.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so that area of where that intersection is, on one side, it appears to be a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, but on the other side, if you're going past the bank, it's 35 right there. So is there something that could be done to kind of make sure that they're both a little bit slower there? Because I think once you get to where the Firth Miley building is, it's 35,
Yeah,
and that's before that
I
intersection.
believe this entire segment's in the 35-mile-per-hour zone,
Okay.
and the state sets the speed limit. We
They
won't be
set
able
the
to do
state,
anything.
okay.
So one last question for the engineer. So you're looking, we want to proceed with this 9,300, not wait to find grants or more money?
I consider this hopefully a short-term install, and then once, hopefully, we can find some safe routes to school money or some state infrastructure
And
funding.
then just a question in the budgetary thing. We've got 9,300 laying around in the budget somewhere?
Well, there's another agenda item that, later in the meeting that covers 3,000 of that, but that's correct. I'm
Okay.
either finding more grants or taking it out of the general fund to complete the install. And I will reach out to the state too to make sure if there's any programs available, that I'll make sure to tap into those if I'm able,
Your install date would be what, May, June,
sometime this summer.
somewhere?
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and offer the resolution, waive the reading authorizing installation of the pedestrian crossing enhancement at the intersection of 4th South Street and Broadway.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4.1, Haala gravel pit license.
Thank you, Madam President, City Councilors. This item was considered at the December 15th, 2020 City Council meeting. The approval was granted with conditions, and those conditions were for the pit operator to complete the slope correction and to place cover material on the exposed sand materials, and discuss operations with the neighboring property owners. Those items have been completed, so before you today, we are bringing this back for approval.
Madam President, I want to make a couple comments on
No, Mr.
this
Schultz?
topic, if I could.
Counselor Schultz, before you do, may I interject, please? Just as we had considered this earlier, and the council has previously approved the lease subject to these conditions. And if you determine that the conditions have been met, the lease is in place. If there's more to be done to deal with problems that the previous conditions created for the local property owners, that probably is a private matter between the property owners and the tenant. The council had voted on these conditions previously, and I'm not sure if the discussion with the neighboring property owner has happened or not. I don't know if the property owner is satisfied with how the discussions went. And if, in fact, the condition was just that they have a discussion, and if that happened, then the condition has been met and presumably the license is in place.
We're kind of right in the middle of that somewhere, but I had a text message and stuff with Mr. Castleman, and M&R did meet with him on Friday, so, I mean, they waited right till the last minute, but they did meet. And now everything's covered in snow, so they really couldn't see a lot of the damage to the property and the sand and what, at that point, he said he would touch base in May or June, and come back and take a look at it and maybe bring a blower and a vacuum and look at the gutter damage, and the sand in the windows. The problem is, it's like, okay, if we say, yeah, that's great, how do we, and like you said, maybe we can't at this juncture, make sure that M&R does that?
Well, if there's a representative from M&R here, I don't know if he would be willing to commit to any additional conditions this evening that would allow you to then confirm that the lease has been approved, subject to those new
Yeah, because
conditions.
it's not as if Mr. Castleman's saying they won't do it, they're refusing. In fact, they're saying they will, but how do we make sure they do?
Well, if they're
As a condition of
willing,
that contract,
willing to
so-
commit to that, I don't know.
Come on up.
I'm Tony with MR Paving and Excavating. Matt Mathowitz asked me to be here tonight. Matt briefed me a little bit earlier today on the situation. He said he met with Mr. Castleman.
Yes, they
I think
did, on
Met
Friday.
or conversed with him a couple of times and assured him that we would take care of the sloping in the pit, which is already done. We spent about 2.5 days in there, moving soil around, covering it with the salvaged topsoil and clay to stabilize the slopes. That work has been done.
Correct.
The cleanup work, yeah, Matt had said we were gonna work on that in spring when we can see what's going on and when things aren't frozen again. But we will be spreading some seed on those slopes to get things to stabilize further.
So is that back area pretty much done then?
Yes,
It is, okay,
yep.
okay.
We have a little bit of cleanup to do, but the slopes are built. You know, we pulled all the existing gravel material down and covered it with topsoil.
Yeah, it looks much safer.
Yeah.
Saw you in the middle of doing it, I stopped and just watched for a
Yep.
while, so well done.
You know, it was safe enough to climb with equipment, so I think we should be able to seed it and should be in good shape.
So, Roger, can we approve this? Do we want to list a condition? I guess I'm still not quite clear where.
Well, I'm not sure, the council previously, assuming that this is correct, and it seems
And
to
we
be
need- the conditions are
consistent,
met.
consistent with my recollection of the decision that was made when the lease was last before the council.
Yeah, Mr. City Attorney, the conditions that were in the meeting minutes is exactly how I
Right,
copied it onto
right.
the.
So,
I don't
if,
believe we can alter that.
no, that's what I'm saying, is,
Table it this evening and add a new one.
We had a discussion that said he had to make them whole, or to work with them to resolve the issues. I remember that I made that, resolve the issues with the neighbor. And we can't because it's wintertime.
no, I'm aware of that, but that gets back to what was that last condition. And if it was nothing more than a conversation, that has happened. If it was a commitment then to satisfy the neighbor's concerns, that's an extra level.
See, and I think it was at that level. That's my recollection, but I could be wrong.
Well, unless we would table this to, have an opportunity to review what was on the record from the previous meeting.
Nicole, pull up those minutes maybe, or a staff person?
I believe that's where they were pulled from, and when I did go through and finish off the minutes and polish them up, I did go back and listen to the recording, so.
Okay.
That's what you've got, that's.
So if that's where Joe got them from, then that's.
Well, M&R's been a great business in our community, and I certainly hope that they're gonna follow through, and I assume that they would, and if they didn't, it's certainly gonna affect their contract next year, obviously. So, I'm gonna, feel pretty confident that they'll follow through with that. There's not, like I said, not a lot we can do right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and offer that resolution, waive the reading auzing, oh, wait a minute.
I think
the
we just
wrong
gotta
one.
receive it in order,
Already
file.
been-
Receive and order filed, sorry, I was on the wrong one.
So we have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.1, new business options for the property located at 307 North Minnesota Street.
Madam President, city councilors, you have in front of you description of what has been taking place at 307 North Minnesota Street for the past couple of years. That north wall is in disrepair. I did receive one quote on replacing the wall, and that one is at $108,000, not to exceed number. But there's still some hidden costs in that, and that is replacing the whole entire north wall. And then along with a couple demolition quotes. See, one was for 30, what is that one, 38, almost 39,000. But there again, you can see the exceptions that were brought into that quote. So there's gonna be some extra added costs there, and the big one is that dividing wall between them and the 307 building and the 303 North Minnesota building, the Journal building, whether that is a combination single wall or if it's actually two walls. And that one is, we don't know if that's an exterior wall built or it was an interior wall that we would have to take place and cover that. And that cost estimates are already about $45,000 to take care of that one. Then we would have a property line to deal with if the building was to be demolished and figure out how to deal with that and put in the future burden on maintenance of that wall on the owner of the Journal building wall. And then the third quote or the second quote for demolition was at $115,000. That included all the abatement for lead, asbestos, but that did not include the cost for that exterior wall or the roof that's combined on the front part of the building up there also, which that would still entail on the second quote also.
The one question I have for the city attorney, regardless which route we go, one or two, I mean, it'll specifically go back on the tax roll.
The authority that we've got under state law is that if the city is obligated to either do the repairs or the demolition, that it would be then determined by the council to be an assessment on this property.
All right.
And if the assessment isn't paid, then presumably the property could end up being forfeited for non-payment. But that's the recourse we have for reimbursement. The other question that has come up on this in the past has been if the council was to decide to go ahead with the demolition, whether or not you would be more comfortable if we went back to court and secured a specific court order that would authorize that. The order that we did obtain is kind of a blanket order that would give us the authority to do what is necessary. Demolition is obviously a big step. And if it's just your call. And I don't know whichever route would be taken, if one of these is, would that be determined on the season? Would that likely be done now during the winter? Or would that be something that would wait until spring or summer?
Well, the demolition, if that's the route they go, could possibly take place sooner. I mean, it could happen this time of the year. The construction would probably want to go out, get some bids, because this was just kind of a cost estimate from a contractor. Get some solid bids on it, and that would probably take place summer-ish.
Oh, but if the demolition happened now, with the concerns about the adjacent wall in the Journal building, is that something that could wait until May or something?
Oh, yeah, definitely, it could.
It doesn't have to be done immediately
No, it
after the
doesn't, no.
demolition? Okay, I didn't know that.
And I do have one question for the building official. If we go demo route, are we talking basement down to the footing?
It would take care of the footings, but there's only an 8x8 basement up front.
Oh,
for the
okay.
steam coming in.
So it
Otherwise,
wouldn't-
it's pretty much slab on grade the rest of the way back.
I mean, my comment on it is, the unforeseen, the demo, I mean, I'm familiar with buildings downtown, what you can run into, that could cost us $150,000, $200,000. I would rather repair it, the building is there, available for sale for somebody else, or if the owner agrees to pay the tax back or whatnot, just demoing the building, in my mind, past construction experience, over opening up our checkbook. And I believe I'm 100% correct with that, opening the checkbook.
I
That's
guess,
my take on it.
I guess I've got some questions in regards, if we start to put money into this building, then who's gonna be paying the insurance to make sure nothing happens to the building? Is that the city's take it, or do we have to guarantee that the owner of the building has insurance?
We'd
on
have
it?
to ask our, I don't know if the city would have an insurable interest in this
Yeah,
building.
correct.
I mean, we may not be able to get insurance, even if we were gonna try and take it out,
Yeah.
because we don't own it.
Yeah,
So that would be at risk if we, put the investment into fixing it up. Somehow it burns down or something, I'm not sure we would be able to recover any of that.
I guess for me, I'm in favor of option two, because the building is just gonna keep on taking, too. I mean, either way, we fix it, there's countless other repairs, we don't know how the utilities have been shut off for the past, have the pipes frozen or anything like that, I mean, to try to find a buyer then, are they just gonna come back and kick us down and, to renegotiate even more to take on the building?
That would all occur only if it went through forfeiture and somehow we ended up with it.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's the owner's responsibility, and presumably if he's got to fix the building, it's going to have a huge special assessment. But, I mean, he might be able to sell it and get something out of it or not, I don't know.
That would be my take on it, and, just knowing the process a little bit, I'm guessing we're not gonna know for 5 to 7 years if it's coming back to us, for unpaid taxes.
It's there standing, kind of being unattended. So if we fix the wall, he may not have any money to fix the building to get it rentable. Is that what you're saying? It could be sitting there
Well,
for
I mean,
5
that's.
plus years?
Right now, yeah, I mean, it's, looking inside the building, it's not, to me, it's not in a gigantic disrepair on the interior. It's that front section of that wall. We could go back 20, 25 feet off the front of it, and that wall turns solid, and it stops there. That what the engineer tells us, it's good from there on back. It may not take that whole $108,000 to get it repaired. To me, the interior needs some attention, but it's not where it's dragged down. You gotta take it down to the studs and build it back out in any way.
See buildings tore down, but, it's been kind of a Band-Aid on a wound there for the last half dozen years. It's just,
Yeah, I'm always concerned about, obviously, tearing down a building, and, we're talking a lot of negative stuff, the worst-case scenario, but what if it isn't as bad? Then we get the wall fixed, and he can sell the building, and now we can get another business open downtown. But I also know that we got some old buildings downtown, and we don't know about that wall, and that concerns me. Is there any other way to figure out that wall? I mean, that seems to be a big expense.
I was trying to work on another option that one of the, demolition companies came in and mentioned he'd seen some fixes done, but I was not able to get any information on that. Whether that's cheaper or not, I don't know. Right now, it's tearing that wall down, shoring up the floor, and basically studying it out, bringing it back, and then doing an ephes on it to look like the stucco that's on the outside now. So it's a complete rebuild. It's not rebuilding with brick or anything. It's just getting it to structural strength.
If we go through with repairing the wall, is it the intent of the business owner to continue to try to sell the property?
He's been trying to market it. That's why we got the court judgment in July, I believe it was. And right after that, there was 2 or 3 contacts made to try to buy that. So that's why we've extended the time, is let him try to work and see if he can get it sold.
And the improvement of the wall would improve the value of the building, so how does that work for us? Just goes on his taxes?
Correct, yes, yep. Whatever we would spend on it would, so we
No.
get,
Well, I mean, presumably it would be assessed at a higher value, but it's not going to be dollar for dollar. If we spend 100,000, I don't think they're going to raise the
no, they're not.
estimated
gonna
market
assess it for
value
the-
by that.
Right, yeah.
But,
no.
yeah.
The owner of the building isn't current with his taxes either on this building. He's behind, isn't he? Is what we,
I believe
at the
so. I
last
believe
meeting, he
that's
was
correct.
behind
Yes,
a couple of years.
Current or is not?
He was not current. He was behind.
correct.
And Elwood, I think I tried to push you for a recommendation last time, and you were on the fence pretty tight. Where you stand today? Place. I see you. I see you leaning a little more towards demo, just by the tone of your voice, but.
Elwood, can you tell me what some of the other risks would be if we do demo? I know, Dave, you were talking about maybe finding things if you're going all the way down to the bottom, but, I mean, what could we find that would be expensive?
Well, I guess the big one is, it's really gonna be dealing with that adjoining wall with the journal, and how we're dealing with that. I mean, we open it up and that, if it is two different walls, what type of condition is that wall in? I mean, is it in a good condition, then we can just, fur it out and put these, panels that I priced out and just insulate it and get it done that way? Or is it in disrepair that it needs some structural integrity to take care of it before we even decide to put a covering over the top of it?
City attorney, am I correct? If we expose that wall and now it's found the weather default or whatnot, it's our responsibility, correct?
If we've exposed the adjacent building wall and created issues for that owner, that would be our responsibility. Question I would have for our building official is, I've never had to negotiate a contract on a building like this that's getting torn down, and I don't know if there's any custom in the industry as far as the responsibility of the demolition company, if there's damage to that wall. If they're going to totally swear off and say the city's got to indemnify them, that would be a concern, because if they're negligent and they don't even have a real reason to be careful, and that wall comes down or is severely damaged, we could be looking at another problem. So, and I don't know if that's a likely risk or not. I mean, it may depend upon what's going on between those two walls, how they were constructed.
Right, and that's why I think the price of demolition is
So high?
So high is because of when they're not real sure. It looks like it's two walls, but are they tied together somehow internally that you can't
right.
see? And
Right.
I mean, once they get in, I mean, they're gonna do their best to keep it the way it is, but again, it's tight. I mean, it's butted right up against it if it is two walls, so the likelihood of something,
Because if it's, both buildings are finished on the inside, so you wouldn't know if there's, bolts or anything trying to tie them together.
correct.
Yeah.
No.
And Elwood, if we're reading right, the owner of the building, he recommends tearing it down, but he wants to save the back. wasn't it?
No,
Or-
he's not,
or-
he's just saying that if we go that route.
We go that route.
He would like to try to save that back portion.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Down next to the Journal building, when
Yeah,
you start tearing
my
it down.
comment
I
on
don't-
that,
Where do you-
I don't like
where do
that
you quit?
idea at all. No, now we got that old wood structure, tin garages in back, I won't go for that. No.
It's like an add-on of an add-on of an
Yeah.
add-on. I went by over there over the weekend, and it's just Another little level, another level.
'Cause that front part is brick, then it stops where the entry on the side is, it turns into CMU block wall. And then we've got that add-on in the back, that little lean-to in the back
Right,
for
but
garage.
then there's a tin shed sitting there for the next 20 years. No, I won't vote for that.
Yeah.
I know we do gotta make a decision tonight. I mean, and you heard my opinion about fixing it. I'm not gonna fight it if we decide to demo it down.
No.
It's just, we gotta deal with it tonight. We can't keep
Yeah.
pushing it off. Someday that wall is gonna actually crumble and fall in, and then we got bigger issues.
Well, we've been dealing with it for 5 years, so I guess I'm gonna take a stab at it. Option 2 for demo of the building, fair enough. So that's my motion.
So that is your motion? Or,
Option 2 was for the demolition of the building.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm just not, I'm not a fan of either one, really. You know, I don't want to be making this decision, but I know that's what we got to do.
Well, and I don't want to see buildings tore down. I'd rather see things fixed, but I think we're opening a can of worms by trying to repair it, I think.
Well, we could be a can of worms the other way, too.
Correct.
Mr. Hippert, if they vote for the demo, would there need to be any conditions in there if we're not doing the back, or would it be considered the whole property?
No, I would put down demolition of the entire building.
This is one property, and that's why, when I mentioned earlier that we've got a pretty broad court order, and I understand if it's demolition, it could be done as soon as arrangements could be made and a contract is accepted. But if you would want to have the court order specifically state that the entire building, because it is a building, and I understood it's been built in stages, but I don't know that in this case, anyone could dictate that you can only demolish part of it. They can make that argument, I guess, but it hasn't been made so far, at least not in a legal setting. I mean, the request has kind of been made, but I understand it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, do we request that, Roger, or we could just do it tonight?
Well,
We're gonna
I think we can just go ahead and do it. I think that's, the authority is there, and if we have to do it, we have to do it.
We have a motion from Counselor Mack, a second from Counselor Schultz. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I said, I won't fight council on it. We gotta move on it. I'll just demo it.
If that's what it takes. I'm just nervous about the structural integrity of the journal building, but if this is what it takes, I would vote for it as well.
Is that an aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam, if I have a question, I guess at this point, as I understand it, the council is voting on the question of demolishing the building.
Option 2.
But to actually have that happen, you've got a couple of bids, but you would then be coming back with something more specific, because you're not accepting a particular bid or anything
Yeah,
tonight.
we'll just,
No, I'd have to get some, solid bids.
So then be directing staff to obtain bids and bring them back to the council is intended as part of the motion here? Okay,
That would be my,
yep, okay.
All right, we'll try this one more time with option 2. All in favor?
aye.
Okay. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Item number 5.2.
Andrea, when there's we have to call roll. when
Oh,
there's
that's
a
right. I'm so sorry. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack,
yes.
Counselor Schultz,
No.
Counselor Christian.
Yes.
Counselor Warmka,
No.
President Becker.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 5.2, performance measurement citizen survey for 2020 services.
Council President, councilors, before you have our annual community survey that we do every year. And this is, the item before you is just to approve or deny that. We do 500 surveys a year, 125 in each ward, and compile that information. So this is just approval to move forward or decline to do it this year.
And we've been doing this 10 years?
About
No?
that, yeah.
Something like that?
We've expanded a little, right? We did.
We had 300 before, and then we moved to 500.
2 years ago, we did the 500.
And then I think we asked for more information on the parks a
Yeah.
couple years ago.
Yeah, we split the park question into two because it was kind of confusing, so.
We don't see a lot of change from year to year to year this seem, but it does kind of, they always love the police, the fire department, and they hate our snow plowing, so, right, typically. But sometimes it does give you kind of a direction, so I would like to see us continue to do it.
Do we have to decide tonight, like if we would like more park questions on that survey?
We tried to keep it to one page
I-
of questions.
I realize that, but-
I think we can delay it. I'll have to check with Lisa, because I know there's a time frame that we have to do the survey
Right.
and submit to the state. But we can, if you approve it, what we can do is send out the survey to the counselors to have you look at it, and if there's a question or anything, we can add at that point.
And it, like you said, it does give our people a voice in what's happening and how they feel about how we're doing. So,
In support of it. We've been doing it as long as I've been on the council, and there's always some good comments to read about, things that we necessarily don't get called upon. So,
I'll offer a motion to direct staff to proceed with the performance measurement citizen survey.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.3, Development Agreement, M&D Properties for the Oak Bluffs 9th edition.
Madam President, members of the City Council, Dave Schnobrick, Community Development Director. The subject property is located north of 6 North Street and east of North Highland Avenue. A requirement with many of our plats is the preparation of a development agreement that eventually is then signed by the city and the owner of the property. Purpose of the development agreement is to cover platting and development issues. In this particular case, it's for a 5-lot subdivision. 2 of those lots would accommodate single-family dwellings. 2 lots would accommodate 1 twin home, and 1 lot would accommodate 3 fourplexes. The property is currently undeveloped. It's being farmed and totals 4.75 acres. City Council approved the final plat with conditions at your September 15th, 2020 meeting. I would note that there's a mistake in the staff report. It says 21. At that time, one of the conditions was the approval of a development agreement. I would note that the development agreement has been prepared with the assistance of the city attorney. That would conclude the staff report.
So everything green light?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Schnobrick.
Resolution, waive the reading, approving a development agreement with M&D Properties LLC for their property to be platted as Oak Hill Bluffs 9th edition, located at 1406 through 1446, 6 North.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.4, Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, SHIP grant.
Thank you, Madam President, City Councilors. This is the action item to accept the grant from the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership in the amount of $3,000 to assist with a portion of the improvements of the intersection crossing at 4th South and Broadway.
Thank you, Mr. Stadham.
Certainly don't want to turn down money, so I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, accepting the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership Grant in the amount of $3,000 to fund a portion of the intersection at 4th and Broadway.
Second.
And a second, any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack? Yes. Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka? Yes. President Becker?
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 5.5, City PUC Classification and Compensation Study Proposal.
Thank you, Madam President and Councilors. Shauna Boomgarden, Human Resources Director. This was a budgeted item for 2021. We did receive 2 quotes for the project. One from Gallagher, who we utilized for our insurance services, and then also one from DDA Human Resources in the amount of $23,750. We utilized them for our city manager recruitment. We budgeted $25,000 for this, and half of that will be contributed from the PUC. We do have a good relationship with Gallagher currently, and the city manager recruitment went well. We've decided to move forward with the recommendation of DDA Human Resources. This was willing, due to them willing to do benchmark all of our jobs that we have right now. Gallagher would only benchmark 60 of our jobs. The study will consist of a general review of our job descriptions, utilizing our current evaluation system, a market study of all jobs, a benefits review, and then options to adjust our current comp plan. And then if we need any jobs reevaluated as far as their points go, they would do that for $200 per job. So that is our recommendation. Is there any questions at all?
When did we last do this again?
This was last done, it was started in 2015 and finished in 2016.
So they recommend doing them every 4 to 5 years?
5 to 10. The issue and the sticking point with the last one is they only benchmark 40 jobs.
Okay.
And during union negotiations this year, we had said that we would like to do another study and benchmark all jobs. That's what we intend to move ahead with.
I agree with doing them all. I'll authorize the city manager enter into a contract with the DDA Human Services in the amount of $23,750 to complete a classification and compensation study.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.6, appointment to the Safety Commission.
I'll offer a motion to approve Connie Grahams to the Safety Commission.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Our annual hanging of the rags, right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, this is a resolution.
Oh, this,
No.
We
I'm
were on
sorry.
the appointment.
No, we're all
list.
right. Yep.
5-7.
Now we're on 5.
5-7, perfect. Okay.
I can make it.
Item number 5.7, Narn of New Ulm Fashing decorations.
I'll offer that resolution, waive the reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Finance Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.8, use of parking stalls by New Ulm Craft and Vendor Events Board.
I'll make a motion to authorize the use of, are you presenting on that?
Just giving kind of
Yeah.
a quick update.
Say I
So
read about
this event has been happening for the past 2 years now. They have expanded it to 6 days. It's usually between 2 to 4. It does take the parking lot attached to City Hall from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Haven't ever gotten any complaints from any of the business owners or downtown businesses about that parking lot being used for those events. It does drive traffic downtown, so hopefully that does bleed out to some of the restaurants and some of the retail down there as well. So I don't have any issue with allowing this to continue.
Yeah, anything to promote more business downtown, I'm all for. So I'll make a motion to authorize the use of the 27 parking stalls by the New Ulm, or for the New Ulm Craft and Vendor Events Board located at 2nd North and Broadway Street, adjacent to the City Hall, to hold a stop and shop, the Lot Craft and Vendor Show on the Saturdays from 10 to 4, June 12th, June 26th, July 10th, July 24th, August 14th, and August 28th, all of 2021.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I would assume this is always in consideration of the governor's order for events, that we would just automatically have to cancel them if.
Think positive, Les.
I know, it's June, we should be good.
Gonna happen.
Let's hope. So, I think that goes without saying. Thanks.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.9, Fire Department donations.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to accept the following donations: $100 from Brown County Ag Society and $100 from Jeannie Kretsch.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5.10, Park and Rec donations.
All right, I was unable to attend the Park and Rec meeting, but again, we'll accept all the money. So I'm going to offer the resolution, waive the reading, accepting donations offered to the city and home through the Park and Rec Department as outlined. German Park Amphitheater, $5,000 cash from Terry Dempsey, $100 cash from Joanne Huss. German Park Paver Stones, $200 honoring the Art and Janelle Fox family from Brian and Barb Fox, $200 from Dennis and Marge Frederickson, and others is just $1,000 from the U-Care to be used towards the NUMAS House Personal Care Supplies.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
With a total of $6,500 donated.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Thank you to all our donors.
Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. With no additional business, we are going to make a motion to adjourn and move into a closed session to discuss the performance of City Manager Chris Dalton.